Welcome back. Doing something a little different today. I'm going to play some Empire Total War. Uh, I'm playing as the Americans, which in this particular way the game is set up, as you see, takes up right after the Revolutionary War has ended. You're the 13 original colonies minus the Indian Territory and stuff. I'm going to build up my economy and stuff and try to stay out of any wars until I'm good and ready for them. So it's going to be a slow start. I'm not worrying about mission objectives or anything like that. All I'm after is building my country up right now. I'm going to try and uh, live as long as I can until I can do something more in the game. So, as I say, it'll be a bit of a slow burn at the start here, but I'll talk about what's going on, talk about the game, for those who might not be real familiar with it. This game's probably is pushing 20 years old now. It's been out for quite a while. Very popular among some reenactors and stuff that I've known over the years. We love it. Being able to get in and command your armies in the time period and stuff, use actual tactics and strategy and all that when you're actually commanding your forces makes it a very interesting game. It's also, dumb as it sounds, is a good teaching tool for people who might not be familiar with 18th, early 19th century warfare and technology and militaries and stuff, because you have to really understand what's going on with it in order to be good at it when you're doing the actual battles, if you're not auto resolving everything. So we're gonna give it a go. We'll see how we do here. As you see, I'm starting right off with trying to build up my roads and my infrastructure, and I'm going to go from there. Excuse me, trying to relight my pipe. And I'm going to try to build up my technology and stuff too, to where I'm on par, because in this you don't start out with where you really should be compared to the other countries technology wise. You should be on par with everybody, but you're behind. So I'm going to try and build up to where I, have the military technology and stuff to stand a chance, but it's going to take a little while before I can get there. I'm also going to try and, as I say, stay out of wars and build up my trade and my money and everything else, and we will see how we do. Unfriendly, but I'm going to try to open a trade agreement because they border me, so it's easy enough to do. There. Same with Britain. Okay, they accepted, but they don't like me. So let's see. Is there anybody else I can? Nope, that fills them all up. Okay. So let's see what we got. Prussia and Poland are at war. Poland and Austria are at war. Poland and Russia are at war, and Spain and Great Britain are at war. So Poland's starting off somewhat aggressive. Let's get up here and keep an eye on what the Iroquois are up to, and do my last one of these. And I'm going to get rid of this and put a college here so I can do a little more researching. Don't want to put two in one province and potentially raise the unrest there, which makes things difficult. So let's start working on farms. As I say, it's a slow start here, but it will get going. You could launch into this and immediately just start a war with somebody, but knowing the state we're in, I want to avoid that until I know I'm able to hold my own, at least, if not win. If somebody declares war on me is one thing, but I'm not going to start one. If somebody declares war on me, we're going to throw down with everything we got, because America. But and obviously, I'm recording this as I'm playing it, so I don't know what's going to happen. I might get into a war, I might not. I'm going to take this up to about 1800, and then I'll leave it off unless I get into a war before then and things get interesting. I'm going to try and hold off on starting a war until about 1810, but we'll see what happens. So let's move him up there because I'm going to put a college there. And let's see, there's technology, my roads, and that. All right, so let's go around with the infrastructure. Nope, I clicked the wrong one. Infrastructure. So Maine, Georgia, Carolinas, and then a turn Virginia. How's Maryland? And then 2 turns Maryland. Okay. And I'm gonna do my farms first, and then I will start working on industrial stuff. But farms is how you increase your trade and feed your populace, obviously. So I don't want my people to starve. I want my population to be able to grow and sustain it. Gotta dump out my pipe and get another one started here. I'll only mess with that in between turns just so the play keeps flowing here. And I'm not going to worry about what's going on anywhere else until I get to a point where I might want to start looking at expanding. Once I have some excess income coming in and my infrastructure and buildings and stuff are done, then I will look at building trade ships and things like that. But for now, I'm just worried about my internal conditions. Give it another turn. I'll wait till another turn or 2 to build up some money, and then I'll do this last bit of road construction. Oh. But it's a day off. I don't really feel like doing anything. They're calling for really nasty weather here again. Go figure, in upstate New York. So I figured I'll just sit and play a game for the morning, and we'll see what happens. I also have no idea how long my recording software is going to record for how much space it's got. So if this cuts out early, we'll splice something together and we'll figure it out. But as I say, I'm going to try and take it up to 1800. Okay, he made it into the Iroquois territory, so I can keep an eye on what they're up to. Don't worry about that. Construction. Yeah, all my roads, a couple of farms done. So, there's that. There's that. There's that. And gotta wait another turn, so let's do a couple of farms while we wait. Every little bit helps, and we'll work on a mine. Every one of these, when they're done, adds a little bit to your income, which by the time you're done, even if you can't move your technology forward and upgrade things, at least you're bringing in more money per turn and you can start saving stuff up. Then I'll start working on my armies. Another gentleman, good. Did he launch right in there? Yes, he did. I don't even need to move him. And just out of curiosity for the people that don't know me, where I live, I'm actually just north of where this is. I'm up here on by the shore of Lake Ontario. So where I am right now, we have been getting some really nasty winter weather lately. A lot of snow this winter, which is actually on par for what winters around here are supposed to be like. It's just been so long since we had an actual winter. It's been a bit much this year. We have a salt shortage up here for dealing with the roads and everything else. And it's only early February. We got another month and a half, 2 months of this likely to go. So, yeah, I cannot wait for spring. One of the ways, if you're familiar with this game but haven't played this, the American campaign, one of the ways, as I say, you're behind technologically where you should be is you have several technologies left to research before you can raise several of the unique Revolutionary War units that you can get in this game for the Americans. That tells you right there you're behind technologically. It's 1783 and you can't raise 1770s units. Austria and Spain are at war. So what I'm going to do to try to save a little money is I'm actually going to downsize my armies. Anything that's not really useful for the way I play, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of. Because I don't like this militia level units that you start out with. I like the professional armies. So. Because as Washington himself said, to rely on a militia is to rest upon a broken staff. I do not like militia and irregular units in this game. I want my trained professionals. The dragoons can stay. Actually, the light infantry can stay too, but that light cavalry, they're pretty much useless at this point of the game. There's that. Oop, dummy. Well, I guess I'll just move him up there. Hit the wrong button, but we'll go with it. Disband, that's what I wanted to do. And also with this, because you're playing as the Americans, you're not playing as one of the royal totalitarian-ish states like Prussia and stuff where you can fire and hire ministers at will and all that. So I'm stuck with who the elections give me in charge of my government agencies and stuff, which is a bit of a pain in the ass in this game. Because I can't, like, get rid of a useless army minister and get one that's, you know, got tactical abilities and stuff, which helps you with stats. But as I have said with so many other things, it is what it is. We'll just deal with it. Okay, so what can I have them research? I will put them on... let's upgrade our farm. That's going to take a while, so we'll get going on that. And can't do anything with that. So let's just worry about Boston right now. And one of my fur markets. There are ways to use cheats in this game, but I'm not using any of them. I'm just playing this vanilla. No mods, no cheats, no nothing. So I'm going to wait till I'm bringing in at least 10,000 profit a turn before I start looking at building up my military a little bit here. Because theoretically, at any point, because the relations obviously with them are not good, either the Iroquois territory here or the Cherokee down here, theoretically could go to war at any time. Same with England. They usually don't, but you could. Thankfully, you're below the radar of any of the overseas territories. Spain doesn't really worry about you. They got enough on their plate. Same with France, but the Indian territories and Britain that you just ended your Revolutionary War of Independence against, they're not happy with you, so you can have a sudden war jump off with them. But I'm going to just worry about my own stuff before I worry about what anybody else is doing right now. And once I have all of my infrastructure and farms upgraded to where they can get to technologically, I will start worrying about what's in my cities more. But as it is right now, I'm worried more about my economy. Right now, you start out relatively friendly with Spain and France, so I'm not real worried about my southern frontier. It's my north and west I'm worried about, because you were allied with both of them during the War of Independence, and they're relatively friendly with you at the start of this. Not to say you can't do something stupid and piss them off, or something weird can't happen with the random number generator with their government, but they're not really a concern at the start. What else I can do right now? I'm betting it'll be probably not till the next portion of this playthrough that I get into any wars and battles where I'll be able to talk about that stuff. So right now there's not a lot really to talk about unless something happens technologically or try to explain something that's going on research wise or events wise here. I thought about playing up to that point, but I decided, you know what, I kind of want to show what it takes to get there, not just start right off from it. So that's what we're doing. And we're at a point where we're bringing in decent money, but when I start running out of things I can upgrade with where my technology's at right now, I'll know we're doing good. I don't want to build that port just yet, but I can upgrade that port. Oh, they're sending convicts to Australia. Beautiful. Oh yeah, we got a lot of construction done that turn. Things are starting to look better. I can understand being behind in where your buildings and your towns and everything are because, I mean, you just came out of an almost 10-year long war. And especially like up where I am in this area, like everything was destroyed by the war. So I can understand why you're behind there. It's the technology I don't get why you're so far behind. You just fought a war against a major power while allied to two more major powers. I find it very hard to believe you'd be that far behind them in terms of technology. During the war, this is the area where I live and do my reenacting and work at historic sites and stuff. Like, you know, I'm at a fort that's about here, a fort that's about here. I've been to sites all along here and through New England to do programs and events and stuff. Where I'm at, this area here, where I grew up between Albany and the Utica Rome area, this whole area here was just referred out as the burned out district. It was fought over so bad through the whole war that everybody who'd been living in this area, the loyalists had all gone to Canada. The patriots and the people who wanted to just be left alone, the other 2/3 of the population, basically had almost completely retreated to Albany. About Schenectady, which would be about here, is about as far out as the safe settlement went. Everything between here was just, for the most part, abandoned and left to rot because it had been fought over and destroyed so often. And I gotta take a look. Yeah, Poland's gone. That was quick. Wow. That was unexpected. Okay. So that changes what's going on over in Europe. It's not far off time-wise when Poland disappeared, but that doesn't usually happen in these games. So let's see. I'm not real worried about church stuff. Okay. Moving on. For the other countries, if you were playing one of the other nation playthroughs in this game, we're approaching the end game for them. For us, we're just getting started. If you play as one of the normal quote unquote powers like Britain, France, Prussia, Russia, Poland, Austria, others, you start out in 1700 and the game ends for you in 1800. So, yeah, we brought in more than 10,000 that turn, so we're doing good. Oh, the French Revolution has started. Wonderful. Military Academy. Alright. Yeah, let's get worry about Boston first, since that's more vulnerable to an attack coming down. Same with Maine, so we can start improving things. This area is much more vulnerable than Pennsylvania South is right now, so we'll upgrade them. Something that I wish was replicated in this game more accurately to real history is how important the waterways were in North America. Like, yeah, your roads are important, but most of the trade and travel in this era is done on the rivers by boat, not overland. It's faster, easier, and cheaper, especially if you're trying to get to the interior. Like, if you look, it's not real well illustrated in here, but you see all these mountains through here, the Appalachians, the Adirondacks in this area, the stuff in New England and up into Canada and all that, all through here. And it, continues even more than it's shown here right down through this area. There's not really the gaps there that it shows, at least geologically. Really, the only two safe places you can get through are the Cumberland Gap, which I guess in the game would be about here where this road is between the Carolinas and into Tennessee, Kentucky area here, and all the way up where I am, where the Hudson River comes through here, which is represented loosely by this road. Those were your only two ways into the interior for the United States at the time. The St. Lawrence was not navigable all the way through because of rapids and shallows and things like that, which is part of the reason you have the Rideau Canal, which goes through here on the Canadian side, and the Americans put the Erie Canal in later on. This whole stretch here would be the Erie Canal. Basically, unless you could get through the Overland Gap down here or the gap through here with the Mohawk River, you were more or less confined to the East Coast on this side of the mountain range in this era. So I wish control of the waterways and things like that were simulated in here, because they were vitally important. And if you look at where the towns are and historically where forts and things like that are, like Fort Niagara, Fort Ontario up here, Fort Stanwix over here, Fort Schuyler as the Americans called it, and West Point and everything else, all that stuff is to defend the waterways and to either ensure access to it or limit enemy access to it in time of war. And none of that is replicated in this game, which I really, really, really wish it was, because it would give you a much better idea of why things were laid out the way they were and why the country developed the way it did in those early years. Everything depended on the waterways. I also wish, I want to point out, just historically being from this area, I really wish either the US or the British and Canada could develop stuff along the Great Lakes here. Like historically, right about here is where Sackett's Harbor would be, which was a major American naval base in the War of 1812 and going on beyond that to ensure access and control when and during war of Lake Ontario. Niagara is a settlement here, but there would be the fort here to control the Niagara River between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Places like Oswego, Rochester, should one of them should be available as a trade port or fishing port on the lake here, since it has access to the sea. The same with where Toronto would develop. They should be able to put a port there, or Kingston up here, not just all the way up here north of Quebec. There should be stuff further down, which would make controlling this area and fighting over this area much more interesting and realistic. Same with the inner Great Lakes. Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, all these other stuff on the further into the Great Lakes. You should be able to develop this stuff, because in the time span that this game covers, all of this stuff would become more and more important to both Canada and the US developing forward. And again, that is not at all represented in this game, which it really should be. It makes it seem like everything is just dependent on access to the coast. The interior is very, very important to the development of both countries, but you don't really get any sense of that in this game. So let's upgrade some stuff in Philly. We got 10 years, which is about 20 more turns, then I will end this unless we're at war. Keep this one short and simple, just to get started and get set up with it here. For some reason, my pipe will not stay lit right now. I had no problem with the last one. This one is being a pain in my nuts. So really nothing going on. Other than finishing some construction. We're getting there. We're getting there. Upgrade. Plymouth again. And New York. And we'll call it a turn for that. We'll save that 2,000 for the next turn. And I think I'm going to start building up my military now. I can't really get any of the good units or equipment yet, but I can at least get set in case of the inevitable war starting before I'm ready for it. At least I'll have troops available, even if they're not the best. Can make do with what I've got. Oop. I don't need to keep seeing that every turn unless something happens with him. I'm not worried about it. Construction report. Yeah. My dockyard, yeah, might as well. And just for the sake of order, upgrade these, as that helps keep your populace happy. How are we looking at technology? We got a ways to go yet before we start getting into anything. Here, helps with your happiness. I'm thinking, if I'm not already at war by 1800, I'm going to give another 10 years after that to start building my stuff up, and then I'm going to go to war with one of the two Indian territories here and expand inland. Unless one of them starts something with me before then, but having trade relations with them, they shouldn't. It does help to keep them a little happier with you and a little less likely to start something stupid. Okay, we had an election. We got a new president. I wish we had historical presidents in this, but we don't. Yeah, we can't really upgrade much anymore, so because this is on the border down here, we'll give them something that'll let them increase the military, and let's start researching recruiting some units. I can get the 1st Delaware Line Infantry, and I'll do 6 total units of line infantry there. Do the same thing in New England, and once they're done, I'll start worrying about other stuff. As you can see by them moving through there, the Iroquois and the British are allied in this, which is really not accurate for the time period. New York, by 1790s, was controlling all of this. So, whatever. We have to fight for it. New York was controlling it through shifty, illegal means, but they were controlling it. Which, one of the things I get into with talking with about historical stuff with people is pointing out, one of the reasons the initial form of government we had, the Articles of Confederation with decentralized government and more power in the hands of the states, one of the reasons that failed is, just to give something to talk about here, is New York completely ignored the treaties that the pro-American Indians in this area, which would be mainly the Oneida and the Tuscarora, but also some of the tribes up here that were separate from the Iroquois that were also loyal to the Americans during the war and helped them out massively, which people tend to forget. They were promised their land by the federal government, which is to some extent reflected by this being under the control of the Iroquois right now. It's greatly, greatly simplified from real history. But almost immediately, New York, which all of the states were more or less sovereign nations within the United States at that point, is the easiest way to put it. Not really true, but the easiest way to explain it is that they were their own entities. They made their own treaties and agreements with the Indians living in what would become the state of New York. And over the course of years, through some shifty legal maneuvering and illegally letting settlers in to settle in this territory, when, according to the Washington, or at the time Philadelphia government, and then the New York government, New York City, they should not have been able to do. The federal government had no authority and no means to stop them from doing it under the Articles of Confederation. New York could do their own thing. And at the same time that was going on, Vermont, which was the 14th state, was being argued over between New Hampshire and New York. before, during, and after the Revolutionary War, which is part of the reason it was set up as its own state, was the two of them couldn't agree on which would control this area. So it was allowed basically, okay, you can't agree on who's going to control it. It's going to become its own state. It was the first state that was not one of the original 13 colonies to join the United States. Um, New York and New Hampshire, and to a lesser extent Massachusetts, during the Articles of Confederation period, almost went to war over who controlled Vermont. And at the same time, down in the South, Virginia thought it controlled all of this. The Carolinas thought they controlled all of this. Georgia thought it controlled all of this. And everybody wanted Florida. So the states here were pushing into Indian territory, getting into arguments with the British who supported the Indians, and almost starting wars with Spain over who controlled what would become the state of Florida and that area there and the states further in. So one of the reasons the Articles of Confederation simply did not work was the states did not work together, did not agree on things, and were almost starting wars with all the other stuff around them, just worrying about their own interests, not what anybody else was up to, which is a reason they finally decided, okay, this is not working, and it had the Constitution and started to develop the government and centralized control in what would become Washington, D.C. as we now have it, has started to develop at that time. Everybody that goes, oh, Articles of Confederation, all the it did not work. I have gotten into so many arguments with people that, usually not reenactors, historians, people with just a passing knowledge that look and say, oh, the states had rights to this, the states had this, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it lasted 10 years. It didn't work. The country almost completely fell apart. There's a reason we had the Constitution and then went to a centralized form of government, because decentralized government did not work. If for no other reason than because the populations were so spread out and so decentralized that the left hand never knew what the right hand was doing, and the hand in the mid or the head in the middle didn't know what either of the hands were up to. Which is great, fine for a small power, but for a entire east coast of a continent that was looking to expand inward and, grow and improve itself, that was not a good state of affairs. There's a reason they very quickly got away from that. Not to say that what came afterward was or is perfect, but we could not have continued and grown into the country we are now under the system we started out as. We would have balkanized. It would have become New England, New York, the various southern states and all that, like you see it here. All of these eventually would have broken off and probably become their own little countries. New Yorkers hated New Englanders. New Englanders hated anybody that was New York down. Pennsylvania did not care what New York and everybody around them were doing. The southern states had no interest in what was best for the North and vice versa. So none of them were working together. They were actually working against each other's interests. It would not have been able to continue under that system. Again, not to say that what we have now or what they developed is the perfect and everybody should mirror it, but for the situation we had at the time and for what we developed into, it was the best option, and what came before would not have worked. And honestly, most of the ideas that people have come up with since probably would not work. They say you have the government you deserve. And, you know, we got what was best at the time. It developed over time into what worked more or less, worked in quotation marks, because I will be the first to say that, yeah, we are far from perfect. But historically, it worked for us. It's just, we need to stop trying to say it's the greatest thing that's ever existed and yada yada. It's not. It works for us. Nothing is perfect. No system is perfect. whatever country you live in, whatever system you have, there will be something about it you don't like. Nothing is perfect. Okay, we're 16,000. So let's start getting ourselves some artillery. What I'm going to do next turn here is I'm going to see if I can start doing more overseas trade and break off trade with the Iroquois and the Cherokee and see if it doesn't damage me. Because ideally what I'd like to do is have them declare war on me, not me declare war on them. Because the way the AI works in this game, if somebody declares war on you, they're much less likely that their allies will come into it. If you declare war on them, it's quite likely their allies will back them. So I'm going to try not to involve Britain if I go to war with the Iroquois or the Cherokee, although I don't know if the Cherokee, I have to look and see if the Cherokee are allied with Britain, but I know the Iroquois are. Yeah, I can do that. Russia, Ottoman, no, not worried about any of them. Okay. Cherokee, are they allied with nobody? Okay, and they're at war with Spain, so let's break off trade relations with them. And I know the Iroquois are at war with the, or allied, I should say, with the British. They're also at war with Spain and France and the Plains nations, weirdly enough. So try to cancel trade agreement with them. Now, let's see, just out of curiosity, let's try with anybody that might be hostile to Britain in the long run. Yeah, I can do that. Ottomans. Come on. Okay, yep. They don't like it, but they're trading with us, so there's that. And there's other than the two Indian nations, there's nobody. Just for let's see if we can make peace with them. I got no problem with them. I'm not going to try to force project over there. Okay. So we're at peace with them. Looks like all of our buildings are caught up to where I can get them technologically right now, and we're doing pretty good in terms of income, so now it's just getting ready for moving forward here. Okay, so now we can do farms. Till that's done, I can theoretically, can I do that? That'll let me upgrade my lumber mills, so we'll go with that. I'm quite happy when I get to where, when I unlock a technology, I can upgrade all of the buildings in one shot without going broke. That's a sign you're doing pretty good economically. Okay, nothing there yet. What about here? They're not the greatest, but they'll do. Not a fan of Casimir Pulaski. 6, and I want to be fast moving on this unit, so let's give them some horse artillery. Let's get some grenadiers just for some heavy support here. And some light dragoons. Loves me my light dragoons. What do I have here? Second New York. Actually, no, guys. Reenact that unit. Some friends of mine. More of them. Then we'll get some 12-pounders and light. Or light. No, I want light dragoons, not regular dragoons. I'll have to transfer somebody up there for that. Actually, no, I won't. I know what I'll do. I don't know why the Ottoman turns always take so long. A turn. Alright, that sounds good. Although as I build my army, that's going to go down with upkeep costs. So I'm going to move them up here. Cancel them. There's enough already. There we go. They're in position in case anything jumps off with the Iroquois. I think they're all recruited, so I'm going to move them up to Maine just in case jumping off something with the Iroquois brings England into war with me, because Maine is more vulnerable than New England, but if somebody moves down through here, they're within striking range of both. Oh, Anthony Wayne is up there. Who I got down here? Ooh, Nathaniel Green. All right. And here I've got no idea who that is. And this is John Sullivan. Not a fan. But what I will do with him is
anything more?
I will put them where they're centrally located and build that up there. So they're ready to do something against them when war comes with them, because that's probably who I'm going to go after first. I'm going to try not to go after both of the Indian nations at one time, but I do need to start expanding. As I said, I'm not worried about the game imposed limitations on goals and times and stuff. Looking at once I've gotten to where I can't do anything more with the territory I have, it's time to start looking at new territory, like a real country, basically. You know, when your country gets to the point where you can't do anything more with it and it's starting to suck, you start looking at weaker neighbors. Just ask Russia. I probably should start looking at expanding my navy too if I'm eventually going to get sucked into a war with England. At least be able to defend what I've got. Do is I'll start building ships in Yorktown and get Lewes building up. Gotta start with the Constitution. A couple more 24-pound frigates. Because America. We like our little ships with lots of big guns. Just don't touch our ships. Okay, Virginia, let's move them. Start building this up as units train in Virginia. I missed a farmland. Once they're in position, or as far as they can move this turn. The Iroquois have taken northern Louisiana, I just noticed, or in the northern part of what French call Louisiana, not the modern state. Oh, the British are at war with the Mughals. Okay, our farm's finished. Here's the Constitution. I can't afford that one, so next turn. And let's keep this convoy rolling. Three more turns, I'll have that done. 2 turns from having that done. And now they yearly wait for the Ottomans to finish up what they're doing. There's no way it takes this frickin' long for the Ottomans to figure out what they're doing. New gentleman, new elections. Search that or build that. And that. Actually, I should probably move one to Massachusetts.